The West Mifflin Area School District to be held on Thursday, March 25th, 2021, being held at the West Mifflin Area Middle School, 81 Commonwealth Avenue, West Mifflin, PA 15122. Meeting begins at 7 p.m. Before we start our opening exercises, I just want to let folks know we will pledge the flag. And then I would like for us to remain standing for a few moments while we recognize a few members of our extended board family who've passed away in the last few weeks. Mrs. Rana Mata, who's the wife of our solicitor, passed away this week. Former officer Jim Farrell passed away recently, and a former member of the board, Rich Fialkovich, also passed away recently. So we'll remain standing after the pledge for a few moments of silence. Thank you.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Amer. Here. Alexandra. Bennett.
Here.
Engler.
Here.
Sistelman.
Here.
Marshall.
Present.
Mattis.
Here.
DeCenzo.
Here.
And Blazevich.
Here. Presentation. Thank you. Our first presentation tonight is by Alicia Henry from PNC Capital Markets. Senator.
Thank you, Superintendent Stoll and Administration. Can everyone hear me okay? Well, great. So thank you for the invitation tonight. I'm just so pleased to be here to share some wonderful news. As you know, we've been working for a few months on your bond refinancing sale on March 16th, and things went extraordinary. Savings are about $300,000 higher than I showed you when I was last here. The local share savings will be about $200,000 this fiscal year, $126,000 in your next fiscal year, and about $60,000 a year in every year thereafter, no extension of term. The total gross savings, $965,000. The net present value savings, which we like to see over 2%, we hit 10% net present value savings. And you lowered your interest costs from a 3.62% to a 2.53%, so over 1%. The things I'd just like to mention is one, a bond issue is an extraordinary amount of work for the administration, so I just want to thank them very much. It's a very large task to do. Another thing I'd like to just commend the board on is that there was some things brought up in the rating call that shows that you guys are on the right track and moving towards stronger finances, and I hope this bond issue will be just a small catalyst to helping you do so. We received on your bond issue of $9 million, $21 million orders from 14 different investors, so I think that speaks to West Mifflin and the just the things that I mentioned, that you're on the right track and people wanted to buy these bonds. So 2 times oversubscribed is something to be very proud of. And I'm very proud of our desk who went out very aggressively. That turned out to work out very well. The one thing that the world is looking for in the investor community is yield. So this bond issue brought very high dividends to our district with our aggressiveness. So our desk did do a great job. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I just wanted to make sure the public was aware of just this very great news that the district experienced this last month.
Just in layman's terms, this is pretty similar to refinancing your home. We didn't take the bonds out for any longer length of time.
Correct.
And we just lowered our interest rates and saved a ton of money.
Correct.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, well, thank you very much. I've worked with the district for a very long period of time. It's a pleasure to work with you, and I do appreciate your trust and the responsibility that you place into me. So, thank you very much. Continue the good work and have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Presentation B is by our student board representative.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to touch base on a few major events going on currently within the schools. To start, prom scheduling information has been postponed to April 1st. That includes its location and pricing, as well as making sure to abide by COVID regulations at the time of the dance. The date is still scheduled for May 14th, and more information will become available for student, staff, and parents after April 1st. Secondly, the high school is moving forward with the annual Powder Puff Game for juniors and seniors on March 31st at the stadium. The gates will open at 6:30 with the game starting at 7. More information will be available shortly on ticket purchasing, and we would like all the support possible and people coming out to cheer on our juniors and seniors. Also, the seniors have decorated their ceiling tiles this week and are to be displayed in the senior hallway. The tiles should be put back on the ceiling before spring break, so look out for you or your child's ceiling tile next time you visit the high school. Next, the high school is conducting their Say Something project this week to continue to strive for an inclusive and safe environment for students, faculty, and staff. This included advertisement for their anonymous tip line for students to say something when they see something. They also had students sign a pledge to always say something and act when needed to create a healthier school environment. And today, a board was posted in the hallway of sticky notes with positive messages, and students were encouraged to take them and pass them around to people in need of an uplifting message to get through the day. And to wrap up, Tri-M Music Honor Society is moving forward with a recruitment video to help interest elementary and middle school students to join the arts such as band, chorus, or orchestra. We encourage any parent or student interested in signing up for an arts program to contact their school's band, chorus, or orchestra faculty for more information to keep students interested and enriched in these programs. This concludes everything I have to cover. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
When do you guys can start planning for the prom? A lot of people are starting to ask that, so.
We've been planning, it's just he's trying to double check everything and make sure, so they're just gonna push forward further details till April 1st.
Fingers crossed, look forward to hearing about that.
Yep.
Thank you. That concludes the presentations, Mr. President.
Agenda item 3, addendum.
Yes, Mr. President, we have a few addendums under 6C. Number 14, it is recommended the board approve a proposal from PVE LLC to provide structural engineering services to include programming and inspection and the structural assessment report with wall veneer repair details of the retaining wall at Homeville Elementary along Everlawn Street at the cost of $2,700 as presented, payable from the general fund. Also under 6C, number 50, it is recommended the board approve an agreement with Barber and Hoffman, Inc. for structural and engineering service as presented, payable from the general fund. Under 6G, invoices, Nora Matacambes, PC, professional services, invoice 10348. The amount should be $9,135.25. Under 7A, district operations, it is recommended the board approve the newly formed Rise Up Club at no cost to the district. Under 8C, buildings and grounds, we'd like to add the blood drive for the auxiliary gym, the boys soccer conditioning, the soccer field, and the youth soccer games utilizing the turf football field. And finally, under 10, non-certified personnel, A, number 3, it is recommended the board approve/ratify the request for an unpaid leave for absence for employee number 980 for Thursday, March 25th, 2021. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Souls. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, second by Mr. DeSenza. Roll call?
Mayor,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes.
Lacy.
Yes. Those addendum items will be added to the agenda, Mr. Soltis. Agenda item 4, hearing of the citizens. 4A, public comment. In order to speak at this time, the following must be met. Must be a West Mifflin, Whitaker, or UK resident. This matter must have been discussed through proper education channels. Direct comments to the board president and/or superintendent. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. I'd also like to add another comment to, if you have questions about items in the agenda, we may not be able to answer those as public comment is happening, but we'll make note to try to address those as we are covering those agenda items as we move forward. So, Mr. Mark Uhas, would you please come up and make your public comment?
Mark Uhas, 1016 David Drive. There was something else I wanted to come and talk about, but really the only thing I'd say is moving forward, there's a lot of good things that were said tonight. You know, the lady from PNC talking about, you know, our bond ratings and everything. This young gentleman here kind of talking some of the stuff going on in school. The folks who like behind me that like going on Twitter sphere and social media and talk about the negative. Something I'll talk about on social media tonight, how some of the good things are going on in our school, some of the things that we're accomplishing. I was going to talk about when I came up here was a little bit about how we had to shut down our school and it cost some of our wrestling and basketball some nice opportunities. But to be truthfully honest with you, I mean, you know, there's a lot of things we can do, all do better. We're all learning through this, and we all make mistakes. I'm not saying mistakes were made, it's just that maybe we could have done some things better. But nobody I know has done anything intentionally to hurt anybody, because I don't think anybody that sits up here or any of our administrators or you know, set out to try to hurt the students. You know, it just was a very difficult time for a lot of families and kids. And I think as, you know, we reflect back on all this, we can look back and you know, learn from it, be better for it. And so the next time we go to something like this, that, you know, we might handle it a little bit differently. But like I say, you know, my kids have been affected greatly by this. But it's athletics. There's nobody in this school district that advocates athletics as much as I do. But at the end of the day, I look at it, you know, I think our biggest concern is how we get these kids back into school and start working towards helping some of these kids that fell behind and putting things in place. I met with Mr. Minford the other day. I don't have a kid in middle school anymore, but you know, he talked about some of the things being proactive and what they're doing and trying to really get the kids into the core classes and make sure they do the core classes, not some of the electives, because of how much they missed. And so that's being proactive, and that's things that sometimes people need to hear. And I don't think tonight's night to come up and just beat up on anybody, beat up on people, or make accusations. I just think tonight, you know, it's a time maybe to reflect and make ourselves better as a district. And I just think that you know, there's just a lot of good things that are going on right now, and I'd like to continue to focus on that. And I know our biggest challenge is getting these kids back in school, and I hope we get them in there as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
That
Young.
one, Mr. Esper, I didn't have to be escorted away tonight.
Diane Snesek.
Diane Stennis at 2803 Glendale Extension. First of all, I'd like to say if anybody didn't catch the Pittsburgh Today show on KDKA and the things that the Homeville third graders did in conjunction with Starbucks, putting messages on those round things that you put on, but I don't go to those places, that you know, whatever they're called. They put like happy messages. It was featured on the early show this morning. And there's the videos posted on Facebook if you guys want to see it, if you haven't already. My question is on under C contracting, number 3 with the health insurance. I don't want to get into anything lengthy. I would just like, you know, feedback from you guys that, I'd like to know how many employees are taking advantage of the fact that if one of their spouse, either one of the husband and wife choose not to take the insurance from the school district, you know, I don't know how much they have to contribute, but if you take the family rate, and even if at 10%, that's $184 off of that. And at the end of the year, that family is getting, you know, a check, typical like a bonus every month, and that equals to like $19,000 some per year if you're just taking their responsibility as 10%. So that's a lot of money going out to the employees that choose not to take our insurance and take their spouses, and then they reap the rewards of getting either monthly or a yearly check for the amount that would have been paid in their behalf. I'm assuming under number 8, that's the information that Mr. Fort presented. If I'm wrong, you can let me know. The other thing is the auditor was here, and unfortunately, I was watching it from home, and you couldn't see any of the information that the auditor was presenting as far as numbers and so forth. So I'm assuming that it'll be out on the website once it's approved. The other question I have is in regards on page 7 under E, the graduate credits reimbursement. I know a lot of colleges were online because of COVID, and I want to make sure that Mr. Souls' contract states that if he leaves prior to the 5 years, he has to pay back that tuition. We went after one of the other employees for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Danesi.
3 minutes is just not enough to ask the appropriate questions.
Folks, and I don't mean to butcher your name, I'm sorry, but Dan Dietz.
You had my name right, thank you. 1072 Foster Road, good evening. I'm here talking about the whole wrestling program. My children started very young, you know, in sports, and we did not live in West Mifflin. Thankfully, there's the co-op program that we found, and we started wrestling, you know, at a very young age. We got into the program, you know, great coaches, great wrestlers, great families. Ultimately, over the years, about 2 years ago, we decided to move here because of that. And after hearing about what and how things went down recently, it's a tough one to swallow there. You know, that things might not have been done right. Decisions weren't fully looked into before they were made, and that makes me afraid of what's going to happen in the future. And I hope that you guys take this very seriously and make things change and look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stoltz, did you want to address? Okay. Do you want to address that comment, please?
Again, our intentions are never to take opportunities away from any student athlete or an athlete. The circumstances around the event started late on a Friday afternoon, moved through the evening, later into the night. The call was made, as we have published on our website, the number of positive cases that we have to have in order to shut down. We hit that number, so we automatically went ahead and shut down. Now, we did all that so that we're able, and you're able, as the community understands, we hit 7 kids at one school, we shut down from anywhere from 7 to 14 days. If we go from anywhere from 4 to 6, we shut down for 3 to 7 days. So we try to put those numbers out there so there's an understanding that when this happens, these things are going to be invoked and a shutdown will occur. Upon coming back the following week, Mr. Solomon, myself, the administration, we did talk about this. And again, we felt bad. Wrestlers have one chance, and we understand that. The girls' basketball had a game that day. It was supposed to be their senior rec on Saturday. So we did talk about it, and that's how we should move forward, and we put a timeline of events together and so forth, so we could better understand. I won't sit here and say everything was done perfectly. That would be the truth. There was stuff that we could have done differently, looking back on it. But again, the target's constantly changing with us. The state has put into our discretion how to handle outbreaks and so forth. We're not doctors. We can't manage pandemics. So we do the best we can. But I can tell you the truth, out of my heart, we would never do anything on purpose or intentionally to hurt any student or anybody's name or for any type of political reason. It was made as according to how many COVID cases were positive and the number we hit, and then we invoked that procedure. And I'll tell you right now, I'm sorry for the wrestlers, they lost out. I'm sorry for the girls' basketball team not going to the playoffs, the boys' basketball team not going to the playoffs. It doesn't affect just one person or one kid. Over the last almost 13 months now, we've all made sacrifices. We've all been disappointed. We've all missed major life events because of this. And again, we apologize. We will do better in the future and work harder to make sure everyone's notified timely and people are on board with how we're handling things. And that's the best I can say right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. Jason Chedwick.
Hey, Brother Jason Chadwick, 104 Shore Drive. Good evening. I stand before you tonight because my son Logan Chadwick was one of the wrestlers pulled from the Whitfield qualifier. Before the season, Logan was undecided if he wanted to continue wrestling in high school after having many years of success in the youth and middle school programs. Wrestling as a freshman can be intimidating when you are facing opponents that can have 4 grade levels older than you. One of the main reasons Logan decided to continue wrestling was because he didn't want to let his coaches or his team down. He has a great relationship with all the wrestlers and coaches. In the first round of sections, Logan needed to beat a senior from another school to qualify for the championship to earn the first or second place and move on to the next level. His opponent had beaten him during the regular season. Logan won the match and qualified for the championship round and the Whitfield qualifier. Logan, along with all of his teammates, qualified by placing in the top 2 of the respective weight classes. This was quite an accomplishment because the team had not wrestled in weeks due to being quarantined for COVID. They all missed the end of the regular season and senior recognition. This was no one's fault. Unfortunately, as we know, many students and student athletes missed opportunities due to the situations with COVID. Considering the wrestlers just came off quarantine and struggled to return and worked to place within the top 2 at the tournament makes the decision made by the district personnel that much more disappointing. Per your own COVID procedures, students or athletes who tested positive for COVID and were released from quarantine after 10 days have a 90-day natural immunity as per the CDC guidelines. Many students have been told they are not required to quarantine if they are in the 90-day window. Why didn't this rule and procedure apply to Saturday, February 20th? Why would district personnel institute a closure and not take these circumstances into consideration? What would have been the difference in the closure occurring Saturday or Sunday or even Monday morning? How could contact tracing take place on Friday night and Saturday morning? Did the COVID task force gather to finalize these decisions? Again, kids have lost opportunities to learn, collaborate, interact, and compete due to COVID since March of 2020 to the fault of no one. Why would we unnecessarily rob our student athletes of the opportunity that they have trained years to earn? 5 out of the 6 wrestlers had immunity as per CDC and West Mifflin guidelines, and the other was never part of any contact tracing. Potentially, this decision could have canceled the entire Whitfield event. Nothing decided here tonight could give back the experience to my son or his teammates, especially those who are seniors. These seniors will not get the chance to be recognized by coaches from colleges and universities for competing at a high level in sport where they have worked so hard to earn status. This was not just a regular match on their schedule. I am sure the inconsistent decisions have also impacted other sports programs and learning opportunities for students. For many years, I have been involved with my children in programs related to the school and the community. The wrestlers and their coaches have always represented the school and community with respect, pride, tradition, and strong work ethic. It saddens and angers me that this cannot rectify the situation. I seriously hope moving forward that adults and school personnel communicate more effectively, make decisions more consistently, and take responsibility for their actions. Even though this was a disappointing ending to the season, I am proud that Logan decided to wrestle, and I am grateful for the lessons that he had learned through his participation in the sports and his interaction with his coaches and teammates.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Chadwick.
for taking the time to listen this evening. I realize the board did not make this decision, but it's concerning that decisions like closing a school or removing students from a competition can be made without the knowledge or consent of the school board. Thank you.
Can I just add something? We have to sign an attestation to the state to even be allowed to be open. Mr. Souls had to make himself personally liable to sign that. We don't follow those rules. They can shut down the school. We have to work within those guidelines. We can also face WPL sanctions for next year, which could affect our students into next season. So, as much as I think I was a Division I athlete, I know how important sports are. The problem is we have to follow these guidelines. It could affect other students. We have to make these decisions very quickly when we are notified. And so I know Mr. Soul spoke to this, but I want you to know that we do take this extremely seriously because we have every child in this district could possibly be banned if the WPL or the state feels that we violated the attestation.
Christian Michaels.
The problem is the athletic director has too much power to have all his friends on the school board and council. That's the problem.
Christian Michaels, 214 Elm Street. I'm Christian Michaels, a senior here at West Mifflin. I'm representing the whole wrestling team. I understand the board didn't make this decision, but we want to know how we want you to understand how we feel about it. Our coach resigned on February 20th and director attests to this decision. All right. The weekend we were pulled from the last tournament, the boys basketball team hosted their senior rec game, despite them being implicated in contact tracing. However, the wrestlers were in the 90-day immunity period that the district and the CDC already recognized. How does the school shut down on a Saturday at 10 a.m., the same time as our tournament, while kids were there while kids at the basketball game the night before knowingly had symptoms? Now, we want to know how CDC guidelines were ignored during the fall season. A direct quote from our athletic director: "How do you expect us to keep these people out?" And media, he said that to the news, to the media, whenever they were covering our football game. But it was imperative to deny us the opportunity to compete. Some have tried to argue that Mr. Salopek was notified the night before. Whether he was or wasn't isn't important. A text message after 10 p.m. isn't only unprofessional, but it's very unreliable. Amongst us, there wasn't a COVID issue because we were immune. To us, comparisons between our team and other teams are invalid and should be considered unique. Some will say they missed games too. Well, the difference is they had COVID issues and were implicated in contact tracing. According to the guidelines, we were immune. Now, everyone that was pulled from the tournament had winning records in the double digits, including me. And all of our losses were in the single digits. Were just a few examples of the success stories from the West Mifflin wrestling program since Master Salopek became involved in 1996. He's only the third coach since Piccioni and DiAugustino. The team has qualified for the postseason 7 out of the 10 last years. We participated in a co-op with Steel Valley Wrestlers. Some of the same people who supported the section shutout have questioned the co-op, but the truth is much of our success wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the co-op. Now, as members of the team, we can say it's truly sad to see someone who's been here this long and loves the sport as much as he leave like this. Now, since I was a kid, I always thought it's best to take responsibility for your actions. Now, I don't know what bothers us more, the fact we couldn't put all our hard work and effort on the line, or the arrogance displayed by the district to deem one sport more important than the other, and for those responsible for this decision to not take responsibility. Now, consider whether or not this decision was only made because of COVID, or was it made to purposely hurt the wrestling team? No one knows. I hope that wasn't the case. But from where I stand, it was a blatant misuse of power. We were never given the same consideration as other sports.
Thank you, Christian. Mike Galliano.
Hello, everybody. Just appreciate the forum, and sometimes people just need to get it off their chest. And part of the problem, let me get these out.
Like you have to say your address.
Oh, Mike Galeotto, 1017 Dana Drive. I think part of the problem in the world is that decision makers and politicians have to try to make a standardized rule that will umbrella multiple circumstances so that they won't have to make individual decisions. I get that. It's very hard to break down each situation and make a really good decision that's backed by concrete reason and that can be defended logically. When you're voted into a position where you are in charge of making decisions and it will affect others, I mean, you have to take your job very seriously. I'm sure you do. You have to take time to analyze the entire situation, entire issue. Ask yourself how it will affect others involved. I'm sure you do. Do I have all of the information that I need to make a proper decision? Is there any ulterior motive to how I'm making that decision? And can I live and defend my decision with good conscience? Each these questions that you have to run through the gauntlet there. The way I see this particular situation, and like I said, it's the way I see it, is that not one of these rules were applied when the decision to shut down the wrestling because of the exposure on the basketball team, and it's just as bad as the shutting down the basketball team because of the wrestlers' exposure. Both situations were made by what I would think a general guideline across the board. Thus making the decision an easy and safe decision for those that are making it. The fate of my son's 14-year wrestling career was decided by what I would think a blanket policy enacted by someone that did not have the time to seek out the best possible solution for the situation, as well as the other sports that were shut down due to the wrestling exposure. Jesse was cleared by the CDC in West Mifflin from a phone call that I received from a nurse for a 90-day immunity, as well as 4 others on the team. Jesse was on track for a 19-2 season leading up to the second round of the Whitbills, and 2 people in his bracket placed first and fourth at state. So he was there, and the other wrestlers have similar stories. To conclude, feel like, get this off, your chest, you feel like your son's life was affected by a hasty decision that was made by someone following general guidelines set up a year ago. I could be wrong on that, but the entire situation could not have been thought through given the timeline that was presented to us. Senior year for both the wrestling team and the girls and boys basketball team were ruined, in my opinion, by general guidelines set in place, and it all could have been avoided. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galliardo.
Can I ask Mr. Soul something? It was my understanding that it wasn't a basketball player that the sickness had drove it over. It was another student outside. Because that's the way Mr. Lick explained it. I don't know the students who were positive or were not positive. I don't get that. I talked to him about that. He said it was another student who drove that number, and then. That's what Mr. Lick says, and I believe it. It wasn't any athlete who drove it.
Holly Galliardo.
Hello, my name is Holly Galliardo, 1017 Dana Drive. My son Jesse, that was my husband that just spoke, was on the wrestling team, so we all know what I'm here to discuss. I do believe that everyone up here had received an email from Susie Dipsa and Janet Fetterkow. That's my son's aunt and 84-year-old grandmother who's present here tonight. So I share the concerns they expressed to you, as well as all the concerns you've heard from the rest of the speakers here this evening. I want to thank Ms. Engler for responding to my family's email. So I want to start with the timeline as I saw this going down. This is a mother watching what transpired. Sometime during school on Friday, the school hit their threshold for COVID cases. Friday at 7 p.m., a sporting event occurred at the school with fans and a senior rec, so it was extra people. Friday at 9:30, that sporting event ended. Administration makes a hasty decision to close all the sports the next morning, Saturday at 10 a.m. Obviously, like they've expressed, with no consideration to the wrestlers or their CDC immunity. Friday night at 9:32 and 10:15 p.m., there was an email sent to the coach, I guess, at his work email, and a text from the AD to the coach. But these were never confirmed as being received, from what I've heard. Then Saturday at 9:30 a.m., wrestlers already on their way to the gym. At 7 a.m. they left. But Saturday at 9:30 a.m., there's an urgent phone call made to the AD, I think at the Hempfield AD, who then talked to the Whitfield commissioner to pull our wrestlers from the mat and send them home. So needless to say, they were devastated. Next thing I have is questions directed, I guess, to superintendent. A few things I had was who has the authority to close the school in that manner, and then who directed the closure this time and to have rushed it to occur, and why Saturday at 10 a.m. I also wanted to know who directed the AD to call the commissioner at the high school, at Hempfield High School, to make sure these wrestlers lost their chances. To the board, I also have, do you feel this decision was the best one for your student athletes? Do you feel the correct protocol was followed? It's your job as the board to hold people accountable. Sporting event on Friday night is okay, but cancel the section for the wrestlers on Saturday morning, less than 12 hours later, with no contact tracing. Does anyone on the board feel this incident warrants further explanation? The head coach resigned over this event. That alone warrants a full explanation. And just so you know, that the other schools at the tournament, at the Whitfield section tournament, could not believe the way West Mifflin handled this situation. It did not look well, or did not shine a bright light to those other schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Galliardo. Tina Novotny.
Good evening. Tina Novotny, 322 Castle Drive. I am the sister of Tony Salopek, and I've been a lifelong resident of West Mifflin. From the age of 3, I've been involved with this wrestling program, watching my brothers represent West Mifflin advance to a collegiate career, and give back to the program through coaching. The West Mifflin Wrestling Program is one that is built on longstanding traditions and has a sense of family to those involved. Through the co-op with Steel Valley, I was also able to watch my nephew wrestle for West Mifflin. This co-op builds a sense of community with neighboring districts and provides opportunities to wrestlers in both Steel Valley and West Mifflin to wrestle at the high school level and beyond. Growing up in West Mifflin was a positive experience for myself. I credit the strong educational foundation I've received and successful career I currently have to some of the incredible teachers I had as a student. As many friends chose to leave the district to raise their families, I've defended my decision to stay in this community to raise my 3 daughters who are currently in kindergarten, 3rd, and 5th grade until recently. Working in the healthcare industry, I understand the seriousness of COVID and the importance of protocols. However, in order for these protocols to be effective in mitigating risk, they must be consistently followed. In the case of the wrestling team, as outlined by the previous speakers, which I will not get into as much in detail for sake of time, it is apparent that these are not consistently followed. I also fail to understand how education to send the coach a text message at 10 p.m. at night without clear confirmation that this information was received. In any professional setting, that is not an official form of communication, and that's how this is communicated. I also want to thank the board members, particularly Bill Bennett, Gina Engler, and Judy Ahan for reaching out to my brother following his resignation and showing him the professionalism he deserved after over 25 years of coaching. I understand the board did not make this decision, but my question as elected officials, how will you hold your administration accountable to make sure there are adequate transparent channels of communication and that decisions are made in accordance with all protocols, not based on what is convenient in the best interest of a few individuals? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Nabali. Agenda items, there are none.
Can I just say something on that before we move on?
Go ahead, Mr. Madden.
So just this past Tuesday, the middle school shut down. And we got an all-call that there's no school for the rest of the week. But we are allowed to have sports Tuesday night. Not that that makes it any better, but people have asked, why was there a basketball game Friday night and not Saturday? When Mr. Soul shuts down the school, and correct me if I'm wrong, it starts the next day. So anything can happen that night until the next day. Was this whole situation handled correctly? No, not at all. We can't give you guys back what you lost. But a lot of people lost a lot of stuff. Last year, my daughter made the middle school softball team for the first time. She was ecstatic. She never got to play a single game. And just this week, they were supposed to play yesterday, and that got canceled. So I've yet to see her play a game in 2 years. My 7th grader, 8th grader is nowhere compared to you seniors. I can only apologize for what happened, but we're all in this together. And I promise you that nobody up here tried to hurt anybody back there. And nobody up here wants to see this co-op end, as far as I know. I know there's some rumblings out there that we don't want this co-op as successful. And I think without Steel Valley, there's no West Mifflin wrestling. And without West Mifflin, there's no Steel Valley wrestling. So I am going to vote no tonight, and I don't want to see Mr. Salopek retire, and I wish he would reconsider. With that, thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
I'd like to say something also.
Mrs. Aaron.
I hate to see West Mifflin lose a coach of the caliber, character, and integrity of Mr. Salopek. Yet I understand completely his feelings about what happened to his wrestlers. I understand Mr. Salopek wanting to resign after his wrestlers were forced out of the playoffs. I will regretfully vote to accept his resignation.
6 board secretaries, business managers.
And number 2 are the changes to the board policies.
This one, we're gonna make a motion to drop.
I make a motion to table letter.
Motion to table 6A2M, the policy 919. And Mrs. Costello seconded that motion.
We table all or just that?
Just
Just that.
Just that.
We got a motion.
Costanzo.
Yes.
Blazevich.
yes.
Okay, so item 2 will include letters A through L, and we will include them to be discussed.
Any questions on 6A, 1 and 2? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Aaron,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Costanzo.
Yes.
and Blazevich.
Yes.
There's nothing under 6B finance. Moving along to 6C purchasing and contracting, numbers 1 through 15. Every 1 through 8 was discussed last week. Number 9 was added. This is an ABM project modification request to phase 3, 80,000 E04, less applicable credits, resulting in a net change order of 45,558.37 as presented, payable from the construction fund 219. Number 10 is it's an annual renewal for issue track, which is our building and grounds work order system. Mr. Solomon talked about Power School at the work session last week. Crown Castle number 12, Mr. Fort addressed that. This is an E-rate project. We've already signed the agreement. We're ratifying this. We've got the deadline to make for it, and that's a 5-year agreement. And on the district's monthly part of that would be $367.50. Number 13 was added. This is in order to close on the Camp Hollow Road property, we have to have a legal description written by the surveyors, and the fee to do that is $425. And 2 addendum items that Mr. Souls read. Number 14, this proposal is to have, it's stated for the wall, they'll get that inspected to see how we can best repair it. And number 15, although I didn't write it in the motion, this is agreement through structural engineer services for the subsidence or whatever's happening here with the middle school.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Costanzo. Second by Mr. Comments?
Just a question on 3C3. That's by a member of the public. That's a contract negotiation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett?
C3, the health insurance,
Yes, those are the renewal rates in Ashland, which is the Allegheny County.
that's a contract issue.
And I will tell Ms. Vanessa, since she asked, that the buyout for the employees and the teachers' contract is $7,500 paid annually.
And it's $6,000 for the SEIU. So if you don't choose health insurance, you're not getting $90,000.
That's a contract obligation, and so is the.
That's a savings to the district, right? That's why we,
Yeah, in lieu of us
that's why
paying.
we offer.
Yes.
I just use that as an example, not knowing contractually what each group was responsible for. So don't take that number seriously when you don't have a contract in front of you.
Mrs. Damasio, that's in the contract.
That's in the contract, yes, and
That's a pretty routine thing in most contracts, because it's cost savings and entices people to take their spouses and that's cost savings district. And, the credit that, Mr. Messick brought up as well as a contract obligation, and they do have to pay that back, and there's language specifically on how that has to be paid if they do it within a certain time frame. Number 8, the e-services technologies. I think that was a presentation that was held here last
We discussed last week the e-services hosted, e-services technology is going to host, provide an online event management platform, credit card processing, and Clover Station inventory management. This is all for the school store right now. There will be a POS system that we will purchase with grant money, so that is not in this motion. These are the monthly fees to operate it. That's the most it will be if we choose not to engage the inventory part of it. It will be less than that. We can opt to purchase sell tickets online and buy credit card machines to sell tickets at the gate if we choose, or have people have the ability to buy tickets online. We're not there yet. But for right now, this is all focused on the school store, and we will have an online store where people can purchase merchandise from the website, so they don't have to directly come into the store.
So my only question was that the 3.5% charge per transaction, I know when you go into some restaurants or Jim's Hot Dogs, they beat you over the head if you use your card. Can we pass that on to the consumer also by charging 3.5% if you use your card, or is that something you don't want to entertain?
We'll make it, if we do it for ticket sales, we may charge more per ticket. If the school store, we most likely may build it into the pricing, although I don't think we'll need to. But we do have the ability to pass that along to the consumer, but not in a flat fee. We would just raise prices accordingly.
Okay.
And those are standard credit card surcharges, any POS system charge.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical. Some people make you pay it, some people absorb it.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes to all but 9.
Pistonik,
Yes to all but 9.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeCenzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Mr. President, all items passed on a 9-0 vote with the exception of 6-9, which passed on a 7-2 vote.
62. Comments?
I apologize. 6-2. Thank you. And yeah, so it was 8-0 to 6-2. I apologize. Okay. D3.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Pistonik,
Second.
second by Mr. Mattis. Questions or comments? Roll call?
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeCenzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
6E reports 1 through 5 on pages 3 and 4.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeCenzo, second by Mrs. Ahern. Questions, comments? Roll call?
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeCenzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
6F, refunds subtracted from expenditures, numbers 1 on page 4.
Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Mr. Bennett,
Second.
second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions? Roll call?
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeCenzo,
Yes.
and Blazevich.
Yes.
Item 6G, invoices numbers 1 through 3 on page 4. And that does include the change of item 1E, which which we read was $9,135.25.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Ziegler,
Second.
second by Mrs. Aker. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Senzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Item 6.8, requisitions other, numbers 1 through 2 on pages 4 and 5. We did have 2 executive sessions on February on the 11th and the 18th, and the properly noted.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Pistonik,
Second.
second by Mrs. Ziegler. Questions? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Senzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Esper. 7, district operations.
Mr. President, under number 7, we ask the board to approve items A through D, and that would include the board approved proposal for the Titan Marching Band trip request. Recommend the board approve the proposal for the Titan Cyber Academy to move forward with its marketing campaign and handbook. Recommend the board approve the proposal for continued participation in the Respect Support Group at the middle school. And also our addendum, letter D, is recommend the board approve the newly formed Rise Up Club at no cost to the district.
Thank you, Mr. Solz. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Mattis,
Second.
second by Mrs. Pistonik. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Senzo, Blazevich.
Yes. 8, superintendent's report.
Yes, Mr. President, under A, it is recommended the board approve the student separation agreement for student 14866.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Marshall. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Senzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
President, under student activities, letter B, it is recommended the board approve and ratify the following student activities. That would be the trip to Mitchell Page Park and also the shared blessed community garden in Duquesne. And those were both requested by the junior ROTC.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Aker.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Engler. Questions or comments?
I'd just like to thank the Sergeant and Major for all the great stuff the ROTC's been doing. That's a great program, and thanks to those 2 gentlemen for running.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Senzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Letter C, buildings and grounds. It is recommended the board approve and ratify the list of building permits. We have the band auxiliary, we have the junior ROTC, we have NASRO training, and we also have our addendums for the blood drive, the boys soccer conditioning, and the youth soccer using the high school or the football. And also the union meeting and the Powder Puff football game, as well as the youth soccer.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Pistonik. Second. Second by Mr. Mattis. Question or comment? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Senzo,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes. 9, professional personnel.
We have nothing under letter A. Letter B, resignation. It is recommended the board approve the resignation of Ashley Neville, special education ELS teacher at the middle school, effective April 1st, 2021.
Do I have a motion?
Excuse me, could we read through all of them, please? All 9 items.
Okay.
Then we go to nothing under letter C. Letter D, hirings. It's recommended the board approve the following tutors for the 2021 school year in accordance with the ESSERS and the COVID compensatory education grants effective Tuesday, April the 6th, as the list is presented there. Letter E, it is recommended the board approve the following graduate credit reimbursements as per the WMFT collective bargaining agreement for the Act 93 agreement, and the list is there presented.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Ziegler. Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Ahern. Questions or comments?
Just a question also with E1, somebody asked in the crowd today, that is also contract negotiated, and yes, you do have to work so many years, or you will have to pay it back, am I correct?
Yeah, so these are negotiated into the Act 93 teacher's contract, they're a little bit different. But a lot of teachers use this, there are actually made credits that they're required to get under the law. And some of the administrators use that to further their education. But there is a payback if they don't remain within the district within a period of time. So, and we have actively gone on after people did not met that obligation.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Astounding.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Mattis.
Yes.
Senzo.
Yes.
Lazy.
Yes. 10, non-certified personnel.
Under letter A, leave of absence, it's recommended the board approve or ratify the request for an unpaid leave for employee 3491, effective Thursday, January 28th, half day in the PM, on Monday, February 22nd, 2021, Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021, Friday, March 12th, 2021, a half day in the PM on Friday, March 19th, 2021. Number 2, it's recommended the board approve ratify the request unpaid leave absence for employee 3561, half day in the PM on March the 2nd. And finally, approve or ratify the request for unpaid leave for employee 1831 for Thursday, March 18th. And we have an addendum there, and that would be for employee 980 on March 25th, an unpaid leave request. We have nothing through B through D. Letter E is recommended the board ratify the elimination of 1 full-time police officer effective Tuesday, March 16th, in accordance with Article 6 of the police officers at-will employment agreement.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeCenzo. Questions or comments? Roll call?
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes to all but E1.
Astounding.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Mattis.
Yes.
Senzo.
Yes.
Lazy.
Yes.
Mr. President, everything passed on 8 to 0, with the exception of E1, which passed on the supplemental vote.
Thank you, Mr. Esper. 11, athletic personnel.
We have nothing under letter A. Under letter B, resignation. It's recommended the board approve the resignation of the middle school assistant girls track coach effective March 25th. It's recommended the board approve the termination of employee 3604 Thursday, March 25th. Recommended the board approve ratify resignation of Tony Salopek, high school wrestling coach, high school head wrestling coach, effective February 20th, 2021. Under C, we ask the board to approve the hiring of the middle school boys head track coach, effective March 26th, 2021. And under letter D, it's recommended the board approves Ashley Karras as the high school outdoor track volunteer coach, effective March 26th.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Mattis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Engler, questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes to everything except B3.
Engler,
Yes.
Staller,
I'm hoping Mr. Salaper, comes back. So my, vote is, everything is yes except for B3.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Center,
Yes.
Latham.
Yes.
Mr. President, everything passed on an 8-0 vote, with the exception of B3, which passed on a 6-2 vote.
12 substitutes,
We have nothing under there, Mr. President,
conferences.
and we have nothing under conferences. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Souls. Board President's correspondence, there have not been any. Executive session discussion, we discussed personnel and legal matters. Board committee reports were given last week at the work session. Mrs. Kostelnik, did you want to talk about Still Center?
Thank you, Mr. President. Still Center is pleased to announce this year's National Technical Honor Society's inductee group. Acceptance in this organization is determined by student performance, not just in their chosen CPE programs, but also on their performance in their required high school classes. Congratulations to our students, Daryl Addison, baking and pastry chef, Jason Huntoon, electrical construction, Shanjaya Coleman, health assistant. Mara Duso also presented their auditor's report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. Our police car was picked up from Still Center on Tuesday. I hope everybody gets a chance to look at it. Great job by all. Also approved a proposal by HSSDR Architects and Engineers to update the 2018 Facilities Assessment Study to include future programs and expansion space. In the Southeast School, Mon Valley students are working on a virtual synchronistic talent show that will be online in the spring. And that so ends my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Kostelnik. Any other committees want to make a report today? That's different from last week's meeting. Solicitors report?
Thank you, my report was given in the executive session.
Old business.
I'd like to show the other old business, but after hearing today about the wrestling, we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I call on the policy committee to put together a policy where we have to make contact when we shut something down. I know this day and age, everybody has a cell phone and everybody emails and texts. And I'm not saying that, anybody did anything wrong, but it would have been a whole lot easier if somebody would have talked to the wrestling coach. And I just think that if we're going to cancel something, we need to make a verbal communication. I know when guys call off to me at work, I don't let them text because I'm a sound sleeper. So I just think that if this happens again, we need to make sure that we talk to somebody so that it don't happen again. And if I have to make a motion for the policy committee to enact a policy, I will, but
You can just refer.
okay, and I'd like to refer to the policy committee to put something together so this kind of thing doesn't happen.
I think too, Mr. Bennett, I think there's procedures that are being written as well to kind of handle the public calls and all of that need to be
It definitely wasn't.
provided.
Correct.
Processes.
Let's be honest, but I just don't want to see it happen again. I don't want the next kid to be ready to go to the championship and then have it again in any sport. It sucks, and I hate seeing it, but I just don't want to see it happen again.
Any old business, any other old business? New business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Costello. Second by Mr. DeSenza. Meeting adjourned.